episode 2 of our Small Business Bounce Back series. This is a particular favorite topic of mine, all about people and checking in to see if you are okay. And I've got two lovely guests with me today, both from Maitland. This is all about, people that are servicing Maitland, looking after Maitland, or been born and bred here, whatever. But it is all about Maitland. And so we have Andrew Hughes. And what I love about Andrew is he is super passionate about people and helping people to make impact in their world. And he's all about helping them realize their own gifts and talents and working anywhere from executives to entrepreneurs. And so he's going to pop in shortly with us to share a little bit about that. We also have Karen Howard. No, it's not Karen from Facebook. If any of you have been watching our jokes in the community group, Karen Howard is a Maitlandite, and she's also been the president of the Hunter Business Chamber. And she's here today to share her passion for people as well, around how people can navigate this change with her experience as a mediator and leader in our community. And she's going to be sharing some of the practical things that we can do to navigate what is going on in our world right now. So Andrew and Karen, please turn your cameras on and come on in. It's great to have you both here today.
Great to be here.
So welcome. And the very first question I absolutely want to ask you both is, how are you? Are you okay?
Who's going first? You going, Karen? I'm fine. I'm well.
Good. You're looking very relaxed and settled there, Andrew.
Well, there's no point being anything else, I don't think, at the moment, Mel. So you may as well be as chilled as you possibly can.
I love that. I love it. And Karen, you've had an interesting few days, haven't you?
Thank you. Thanks, Mel, and hi, Andrew and everyone. And a big thank you to the Maitland Business Chambers. Anyone that knows me knows I'm a massive fan of chambers. And in times like this, they serve in very intense purpose for people. But yeah, look, I'm okay. Thank you for asking, Mel. Just goes to show that life just throws us curveballs where we least expect it. This time yesterday afternoon at 5:30, I, like the other residents in our apartment block, were being emergency evacuated due to a massive fire in a hotel next door to where we live. We all got back into our homes at 7:30 this morning, but to see firsthand the work of our police and fireys, and this is not an advertisement for them, but honestly and truly, they were phenomenal, and it was really beautiful community spirit. Everybody looked after each other. Everyone had a bed to sleep in last night, and we all came back this morning together. So yeah, we're just chewing that frog at the moment.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come and chat with us, Karen, especially after you've just been through that. We really appreciate it. One of the things that I really wanted to talk to you about today is, often we think about, and we were talking about this just before we came on air, right? We often think about small businesses as a unit or an entity, but the reality is those small businesses are made up of people. And I guess I want to get sort of your thoughts from both of you about what you think people, what they're going through at the moment, how are they dealing with it? What are you seeing out there with people, faced with all of this change at the moment?
I can jump in here, Andrew, if that's okay. I think people are very overwhelmed and they're very underwhelmed. So they're overwhelmed with so much information, not all of it from Karen on Facebook, but quite a lot.
Yeah.
But they're also really underwhelmed with the quality of information that they're getting. And these are already very challenging times. A little bit later, I'd like to talk about how to take control when everything is out of control, because I feel that on a daily basis for the business people that I talk to, the sands beneath their feet are constantly shifting, and business people are very good at planning within some realms of certainty. Where we don't know how long our self-isolation period is going to go for. We're not quite sure when we can get back to transitioning to a resemblance of business life, let alone our personal lives, is really, really unsettling for people. And there's a and again, I'll talk about this a little bit later. There's a real issue with where people are getting their information from that I think is unsettling them even further.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it is about going to the right places for the information. And if you're looking for those links, the Chamber will share links for where to get, all the updates on the information in the group. I guess navigating this change is the big thing. Andrew, what are your thoughts on what people can do essentially, or start to think about on how to deal with this incredible massive pivot that's just been kind of thrown at us unexpectedly?
Well, Mel, I think we've got a choice. Every individual's got a choice, and that choice is either do we get ourselves work into a frenzy or do we not?
Mm.
And if you choose to watch the TV 24/7, the adrenals and the cortisol running down your body are going to send you and everyone within social distancing of you totally bonkers. And anyone who's got kids knows that when you go home and you're stressed, before you know it, your kids are stressed, and before you know it, you're scratching up against your partner. So I think we've all got a clear choice, and I think one of the things we have to just decide is, okay, does it serve me? Does it serve me to have this heightened level of anxiety? And I'll throw into the mix, what do we know that does to your ability to solve problems? It makes them worse. What does it do in terms of your ability to have different ideas, to think on your feet, to be pivot, to be adaptable? What we know is once you get adrenaline in the body, you get noradrenaline. Americans call it norepinephrine, which is the cousin hormone. It floods the brain. And when it floods the brain, it stops your ability to think laterally, to access other more creative ideas. What it gets you stuck in is more of that cerebral cortex response, which is, I'll go with what I know to be absolutely true right now. And you'll know what I mean by that when you think, have you ever had your blood up and someone's given you the world's best advice, but you can't hear it? And then 3 days later, you think, wish I'd have listened to that. So I think we've all got a choice. And ultimately, I think it's a choice really of, are we going to live in our heads over this time? Or we're going to try to get back into our bodies, get more present, engage the parasympathetic nervous system more. And I think that's the choice we're facing. And you've got to do it despite what you're hearing and what you're reading. And that's the challenge. And I mean, if ever there was a global challenge for us to really rise to who we can be as humans, this is it. Seems to me. Oh, world wars, there you go. Thank goodness we're not in one of those. At least I don't think we are yet. But it's a fascinating time to exercise these inner muscles.
Yeah. So what do you both think that, obviously I love the idea that you're thinking about, that we all do have personal choices. And I think in situations like we're faced with now, many people, well, I know I've never faced something like this in my lifetime. And it's interesting to look at, well, how do you respond in a time like this? But what are some of the things that you both can suggest that people can do to try to actually bring some of that calmness and get that focus back so that we can make better decisions? What are your thoughts on some of those things that we can do?
Shall we keep the batting order and Karen go first? I don't mind.
I'm trying to unmute. Look, I love the way that Andrew just so carefully articulated what we're all feeling. I think it's about work out what you can control within your environment. And there are choices that we all make. Get off social media unless you're truly using it for social purposes. There are only 2 websites you need to be getting your information from at the moment. One is preview.newsouthwales.gov.au. The other one is australia.gov.au. So if you need to make decisions about your day-to-day activities outside your house, You need to make decisions about your business in the context that you're able to. That is where the accurate information sits. There's a few other things that are good for us to do, which are difficult for us to do at the moment. And one of those is to get fresh air and go outside. That's difficult with all the rules and regulations in place, but even if it's just go and sit on your front step for a little while, get some fresh air, do a little bit of deep breathing. I'm not very good at meditating. Lots of people are very good at it. Find the things that you really enjoy and make time to do them every day. That's really important, that you feel an element of control over your day when you're probably, you know, getting, from a business perspective, curveballs left, right and centre.
Love that. And what about for business owners that are managing teams and are obviously got that added stress of you know, that feeling responsible for their people? What are some suggestions? And I know, Andrew, you've done a lot of work in that CEO and leadership space as well. What are some of the thoughts and ideas that you have for people that are managing other teams of people? What are the things that we can do to stay calm and level-headed and lead our teams at this time?
Good point. A couple of things there. I think first thing is, you know, who do we look to go to? Who do we want to be around in the eye of the storm, or in a storm? We want to be around someone who can maintain a level of calmness. And, you know, you look at Harvard Business Review, you look at Forbes, these magazines, you know, there's lots of research on attributes of great leaders, and that ability to, as I was saying, wind back the anxiety, to be calm, to manage the internal self, is hypnotic around people, and it's infectious. So I think that's one thing. I think the second thing is, you know, look, I know there's that saying, fake it till you make it. I don't believe in that. Because, you know, when I've spoken, you know, guys, I've spoken at conferences, you know, up and down the East Coast and a few overseas. And I often ask my audiences, who can pick a bullshitter? You know how many people put their hand up? 95%. The other 5 just couldn't be bothered, you know, because they're introverts. So 95% of people go, oh, yes, I can. So everyone knows, yeah. So what does that mean? Does that mean if you panic, go to work, panic? No, it means do the work. Do the work on yourself. And, you know, you're just going to make better decisions. That's just the nature of the game. I mean, if you're in that anxiety state, and what do we know is that when they look at how much of decision-making has an emotional component, we know it's somewhere between 90 to 95%, no matter how cognitive it seems. Like me deciding to pick up this tea, for some strange reason, has an emotional impulse, and there's some research about that. So what about now? What about now when it comes to decision making? It's probably like 100% of all your decisions. Now, does that mean emotion's bad? No. But what it means is if you've got an emotional underlay, even if you're not aware of it, say, if you've got an underlay, your personality will have a certain go-to strategy. Your personality will be such that those decisions are off, those decisions are on. That's just the way we are as people. So if you've got that emotion underlying, then what's going to happen is you're going to go to your go-to strategies, and often they won't be the right decisions. Yeah. And that's going to have an impact upon everyone around you. So your emotional state's going to impact upon others around you, whether you like it or not. And your decision-making now is going to be influenced by what's going on under the surface. And, you know, some people, if you're wound up, I have a potential to be wound up.
I think we all do.
Yeah. But for someone, and you know the people, some people hate that. Some people like when they go to a room, they want to be in the corner where no one can see them. So if you're bombarding someone with that, and that's just your go-to strategy, for other people, you'll think, oh, that'll pep them up. But for other people, that's going to drain them just to meet you where you're at. So I think this idea of working on the self, and I absolutely, Karen, your idea about getting outside, you know, geez, if you can, because remember that research, you guys read that research about 2 or 3 years ago, where they had someone outside, your feet on the ground for half an hour a day, brings physiological changes and actually takes the inflammation out of the body. And then, of course, we've got the Schumann resonance. Remember the resonance of the earth, this heartbeat of the earth, that boom, boom, boom. You go out there, get your feet on the ground and just be still for a second. you're going to come back to calm. You're going to come back to
Yeah.
a state where you can actually make good decisions.
It's like earthing the electrical, like you have to do, and it's doing the same for yourself, getting grounded. On the note of getting out of the house, actually, the Maitland Blood Bank have just put a call out today that they urgently need donors. And guess what? It is perfectly allowable for you to get outside. So if you do want to get outside, have your little barefoot moment on the grass and then go and donate some blood. So just thought I'd segue that there. That was beautiful. Thank you. One of the things that I think probably at the moment is important, I'd love to get your thoughts on this, Karen, is, Andrew, you've talked about, being calm and getting grounded. I think being connected with somebody that you can talk to, whether, it's a friend or a business mentor or someone at the moment is going to be important. What are your thoughts on that, Karen?
I think you've nailed it. It's really important. There are so many challenges that are facing business at the moment, and particularly small business. We shoulder, there's something like 300,000 of us around, and we are the absolute engine room of the economy. And that's not a line, that's just the truth, and I believe that with every bit of my soul. Banding together with people there's some really interesting dynamics that I'm seeing come out of this environment that we find ourselves in. Zoom conferencing has just gone through the roof, whether it's for a Zoom wine or Zoom kids catching up with their grandparents, families and friends catching up, and so forth. And there's lots of networking groups that are using Zoom as an opportunity to, and it's not an advertisement for Zoom, as an opportunity to touch base and say, just check in, just that conversation that we would normally have face to face. We'd give each other a hug when we, greet each other at a cafe or wherever. I know that this isn't exactly answering the question that you've asked, Mel, but I'm deeply concerned at the mental health aspects as we come out of this for so many people, and particularly elderly people that aren't working anymore, that are at home. So coming back to that connectedness, and the best way that we can all do it now is face to face. On the, text and calls are great, but WhatsApp, Zoom conferences, FaceTime, anything you can possibly use, and just reach out to people. It's a bit of a catch cry. We're all in this together, and I keep singing that song in my head every time I hear it. But it's true. What's happening is it's happening to everybody. It doesn't matter who you are, where you live, what you do, what your beliefs are, what your values are. We are all in this together, and I think hopefully one of the lovely unexpected consequences that could come out of this situation are more connected communities in particular, and not just business communities, neighbourhood communities.
Yeah, I'm already seeing that. With the simple fact, like Andrew and I, it's been quite some time since we've connected, and the first thing I do when we were doing this series was reached out to Andrew and said, I know we haven't talked for ages, but already, I can see that connection happening just in the last couple of weeks. The other thing, and we're moving into sort of the end of our chat, but this is something I'm really keen to get your thoughts on. When times like this, unfortunately, conflict is going to happen, and difficult conversations, navigating change, and many people are going to be faced with having to make decisions that are literally almost tearing their hearts out. And what are your sort of suggestions on how to navigate these, having the difficult conversations and potentially conflict, whether it's with family members or staff members or business partners? It's a real issue right now.
So conflict, everyone wants to run away from conflict, and it's funny, often conflict is a good thing. And I don't mean conflict punching each other's lights out, but I mean the ability to have a robust conversation and not own it. And that's sort of an extension of what I've been talking about, which is, you've got a choice how you are. Do you take it personally? And I know it's near on impossible. It's hard not to take it personally. So I think in those conflict situations, if you're in that heightened state and you're up in your head, it's not going to end well for anyone. You're going to say things you regret, and you're going to say things that aren't right, and you're going to say things that are unproductive. You've got to get out of your head, and you've got to get more into your body. If you can open your heart, and we can all do it now. I mean, everyone just, if you're watching this, and you guys can do it with me, but feel your heart closed, feel what that feels like, and then feel your heart open. And isn't there a difference? We all can do it. It seems to be rocket science, but it's not. And if you've got your heart open, and, things are what they are. Things are what they are. Sometimes you've got to make tough choices. I'm sitting on a board. I know Karen's on boards, and, one of the choices that you've got in the back of your mind is, okay, do we do the hard cut at some stage to save the organisation, or do we all go down together? They're hard choices. And all you can do, I think, is open your heart. Try to get out of the way of making it personal. And that's about breathing. That's about connecting. That's about trying to settle down, get back into the body. And you know what? At the end, we've all got to keep loving our hearts, and so we can make up and kiss up. Or kiss and make up is what I'm trying to say. So, look, you can talk about conflict till the cows come home, and the way different people have different strategies towards conflict. But ultimately, I think that's the central thing. Get in the body, open your heart, be compassionate. Sometimes life is just tough. Situations are hard. And if you can bring it down a notch, because remember, people will meet you where you're at. If you're aggressive, somebody will get defensive. So it's how do you give the message compassionately? And I've, as a lawyer, had to sack many people in my old days. Even as a consultant in this game, I've had to sack people. And the trick has always been, have the best intentions wherever you're speaking to. Sometimes there's just tough choices to be made, or tough discussions to be had. That's my take on it.
Whew. Lead with heart. I'm loving that. That's it's going to be a good theme for today. I think for every day. Kaz, what are your thoughts?
Andrew has such a beautiful turn of phrase. So thank you for all of that. I'm going to take a very transactional approach because that's what I'm trained to do. It doesn't always work out that way. But I want to just take a minute to talk about negotiating, because a lot of business people at the moment are in a position where they're having to negotiate, whether that's with suppliers, contractors, utilities, landlords, banks, you name it. These aren't the be all and the end all, but I hope that they will help. There are 3 steps. Number 1, write everything down. Get a piece of paper out, write down your position, the good, the bad, and the ugly of it as it sits today. Don't hide it from yourself. You've got to be truthful to yourself about where you're at. Step 2, write down your best case scenario that you would seek out of the negotiation. And step 3, write down your worst case scenario that you would potentially receive out of the negotiation. And then sit with those for a little while and make sure that you feel comfortable and confident going into a conversation / negotiation armed with those tools. That's not the be all and the end all, as I said, but hopefully it is just a couple of little tips that might help people, because there is a lot of it going on at the moment. And I feel like, again, people are sitting outside their body in a very stressed circumstance and not communicating clearly as a result of that as well, and could potentially find themselves in a worse position than they're in at the moment.
Thanks so much, Karen. I love we've got 2 incredible positions on how to, navigate conflict. We've got, think about with your heart, stay grounded, stay calm, meet people where you want them to meet you. And then we've got some, great practical steps there, Karen, that, and we're going to list those out for people underneath this as well. So that's brought us pretty much to the end of our chat. I know for anyone listening, we've had a lot of trouble with the live streaming today. Unfortunately, there is a lot of demand on our internet. Don't worry, this session has been recorded and we'll make it available later. And if you have any questions, pop them in the group for Karen and Andrew. I'm sure they won't mind responding, or we'll get them in touch with you. But I really want to say thank you both so much for coming along to have a chat. And I guess before we close things up, is there anything that you'd like to leave our audience with today? Some thoughts or tips or advice?
Are you going first, Karen, or am I? Okay. Final thought for today, following on from yours, Mel, about we're all in it together. Think for a moment what this is doing globally. Like, we are literally all in it together. When they look at the Schumann resonance, the vibration of the earth, there were 2 times, I think, in history where it actually changed, and random number generators changed and stopped being random, gave more positives than negatives. And that was when O.J. Simpson was, the verdict came out. How about that?
Oh, wow.
And the second time was 9/11, because the whole world's watching and there's this whole deep intake of breath. So now, globally, we're all in it together. Now, whether we like it or not, we mix in each other's energy, and I don't mean that in a woo-woo sense, I mean that in a scientific sense. Plenty of evidence around that.
Yeah.
So if we can now, as a group, as people, we all live here, if we can maintain the calm, and if you love to meditate, there was a global meditation yesterday I was part of, masses of people globally meditating on peace and love and abundance for the planet, that has an impact. Now, it's going to be subtle in the background, but who knows where that's going to take us. So I think it's an opportunity for us in that sense to remember what's important and to come together at that sort of heart level consciousness. And, we might have a very different community on the other way out if many of us can do it as possible. And my thoughts.
Thanks, Andrew. Kaz?
Just some final thoughts. We are going to be different human beings as a result of what we're going through at the moment, but we would have potentially been different human beings in 6 months in any case. So let's make the most of it. I'm making a really concerted effort to speak to everybody within my circle, my wider circle, tighter circle, clients, suppliers, everybody, just a call. It's not a sell. There's no worse time than now to be doing that to people. Just a phone call to say, hey, are you going okay? Are you all right? People will remember how others have shown themselves in these environments, and this is an opportunity for us all to put our best selves forward and take care of each other. Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you both so much. I've really enjoyed this chat, and I'm even feeling a lot calmer myself. And I think we've all having moments of stress where we're juggling, our own businesses and our families and all of those immediate things, and the simple things like just getting food that we've taken for granted, and dare I mention toilet paper. But the simple things that we've taken for granted. So I've enjoyed this moment of calm today. Thank you both so much for popping along. And thank you so much for everybody that's listened in today. And I think that patchy internet's going to be part of life for us. Thank goodness we can record and upload. So I'll make sure that this is all live for everyone a little bit later. Please stay safe and healthy, stay connected, and we'll see you on Thursday for episode number 3. Bye for now.